Hello, let's chaotically make some French onion soup because it's soup season. So what you did miss was me cutting up 5 onions and crying because onions. So you had to see me sniffle and produce a lot of tears, which I'm still producing. My eyes are still getting used to not cutting up onions. But we're gonna make some French onion soup. So what you're gonna want is a tablespoon of sugar. You're gonna put that in the bottom of the pot. This helps create the Maillard effect in onions. Maillard effect is a browning effect you can get through butter, sugar, etc., etc. I'm also making this recipe dairy-free. It does call for butter. We're gonna be using olive oil. I'm also omitting sherry and adding more veggie broth and bone broth and things like that. So we've got our pot. We're gonna put that burner on high. So I have it about high 7. And we're going to just kind of move this around until the sugar melts. It's gonna take a minute. Okay. You'll want this to turn kind of like brown and caramely. So that's why we have it on such a high heat. It'll melt really fast. And then what we're gonna do is you should have or will be cutting up 5 large onions, about 7 cups of onions. I just fill a nice large bowl with it. If you have smaller onions, maybe do like 7, but the larger ones you only need 5 of. You're also going to want olive oil. If you don't want to use olive oil and you do want to use butter, you're going to want 2 tablespoons of butter. You also want salt. You'll want baking powder. I'll grab my salt right now. I've got my baking powder out. For the baking powder, it's going to be about a 1/4 teaspoon. It does call for a 1/4 cup of dry sherry. I don't have that. I'm not using it. I'm going to add in an extra cup of bone broth instead. You'll want 6 cups of stock. So I have 2 cups of bone broth and 4 cups of veggie broth that I'm going to be using. You'll also want some thyme and some bay leaves. I only have thyme. I don't have bay leaves, so we're just not going to use it. And that's totally fine. Move my sugar around. You also want some bread and some cheese, either Gruyere or Swiss. I'm actually going to use goat cheese slices. You'll do that afterwards. So basically you make the soup. Once it's done, you only warm it up when it's ready. So once the soup is done, you're not going to see the final product in this video. You would get a ramekin, you'd fill up your soup, you'd throw on your bread, you throw on the cheese on top, and then you'd stick it in the broiler in the oven until the cheese is all melty and ooey gooey and brown and bubbly. And that's how you eat French onion soup. This is just right now without the fun parts of cheese and bread, because otherwise those things would soak into the soup. It would get all mushy and kind of gross looking, and it just would not turn out well. So this is definitely a make as you want type of soup. My sugar is melting, starting to become a liquid. It's clumping together, turning brown. So it's starting to stick. And you'll be able to smell the Maillard reaction too. It smells like caramel. It smells like you're making caramel. But you want to wait for this to be a liquid. So mine's not quite a liquid yet. It's getting there. Once it's a liquid, it'll happen pretty fast. You will add, so now I have like this yummy brown liquid that you can't currently see. There we go. And it smells like a caramel. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the onions until they're evenly coated in this caramel. And you're just gonna keep stirring. my heat a little bit. So that should only take about this time, about 30 seconds. Then from there, we're gonna add our olive oil. So it calls for 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. So just a couple nice glugs of olive oil, because that butter is gonna melt. So you want roughly the same amount of what melted butter would be. Just in olive oil. We're gonna stir that around. Adding our salt. Sure. Stirring that around. Ooh. Onions go flying. And at this point, we're also going to add our baking powder, which is a 1/4 teaspoon. So I have a 1/2 teaspoon out here. So I'm only going to grab half of it. Give it a nice sprinkle in. Give it a good stir. And what the sugar does, that caramel sugar, that Maillard effect does, is it helps to break down the onions. It gives them this nice sweet. You're using yellow onions, by the way. Yellow onions, not sweet onions, not red onions, not white onions, yellow onions. But it gives them this nice sweet aftertone, so it's not like bam, onion, hit in the face, you know? So now that that's all stirred in, we're gonna put all of our things back that we're not using at this current moment in time. We're gonna drink a cup of tea because it's 7:30 in the morning. And then all we have left to do is just let this kind of bubble for about 10 minutes. I am not gonna make you sit here for 10 minutes while we just kind of stare at the pot. So I'm gonna explain the rest of the process after I mix this. So onions are already cooking down, which is great, that's what we want. So after about 10 minutes, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of water. To the bottom. And you're gonna kind of scrape. There's gonna be like a nice brown coating on the bottom from the sugars breaking down even more. You're gonna add 2 tablespoons of water. You're gonna scrape that and then kind of distribute the ovens evenly, again, over the bottom, shake it until all that liquid evaporates, and then there's this nice like brown coating on your onions, which is gonna take about 5 minutes. So again, 10 minutes here, letting them sizzle. Add 2 tablespoons of water, 5 minutes until it all evaporates. Toss your onions in it, stir it occasionally. The onions will be this really nice deep brown color. That's what you're looking for. So if they're not at that deep brown color yet, you need to add more time. Not like the spice, but additional minutes. Turn our fan on, hopefully you can still hear me. So basically, so you don't see just me and steam, I'm gonna stir this again. Your onions are currently disintegrating in your pot for about 10 minutes. It's been 2 minutes, got 8 more. 2 tablespoons of water. Scrape the bottom brown coating. An additional 5 minutes. Once all of those onions are mixed in, onions should be a dark brown color. Should be nice. Then from there, you are going to add 2 more tablespoons of water. I keep repeating. That's how you get the brown. Okay, that's how you get the brown. You should do it a total of 4 times. So it's 2 tablespoons water in, mix, 5 minutes. 2 tablespoons water, mix, 5 minutes. 4 times. 4 times. That's how you get the deep brown. Otherwise, you're going to continue to deglaze, which is what the water does. It deglazes. So, although this part takes a while, onions take a while to cook and get really, really browned and nice. Otherwise, you're going to get this really, really acidic flavor in your French onion soup, and that is not the point of French onion soup. French onion soup is sweet and nice and savory and just so good. So once you're done deglazing, you're going to add your thyme, you're going to add your broth. If you are using sherry, you're going to use your sherry in here, and you are going to bring it to a boil, reduce it to a simmer, and then you're going to simmer it uncovered until your liquid is a little bit reduced. It's going to be about 15 minutes, and then you're going to season it again with salt and pepper. If you did add bay leaf, take that out at that point. And then when you're going to be serving that, again, you're going to put it into a ramekin. You're going to throw on your bread. You're going to throw on your cheese into the broiler until that cheese is all ooey gooey and brown on the top, and then you're going to pull it out. So again, the steps. 10 minutes is where we're at now. We've got about 5 minutes left for this to do its thing. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of water, scrape the bottom, let that water completely evaporate, which takes 5 minutes. You're going to do that 4 times until your onions are dark brown in color. Then you're going to add in your liquids, your 6 cups of veggie broth, chicken broth, bone broth, whatever. If you're using sherry, you're throwing that in. You're throwing in your bay leaf if you have that. You're throwing in your thyme if you have that. You're going to bring it to a boil. Once it's boiled, you're going to bring it to a simmer. You're going to simmer that for 15 minutes. And that's it. That's how you make French onion soup. I know I've repeated myself a lot of times, but I really just want to get it through your head so you don't have to look at anything. You don't have to listen to me again and be like, what's going on again? I'm telling you. So if you have any questions on how to make French onion soup, I know this is a very chaotic day for that, especially watching me being in a load of chaos this morning. Please drop a comment below. Enjoy your French onion soup.